welcome back to another amazing episode of the FitBiz Journey podcast. Today, again, we have a full crew here, Lizzie Perida and Dean Stattmann, who is the founder of Stat Media PR. And I am so excited because you're in New York City, and PR, I think, is one of the most important things for a new brand, especially when they come into a completely new market, and to able to penetrate it and have basically an influence right away is not easy, but we have an amazing person for us who is going to walk us through how to do that and why is he in this business and where he came from. So Dean, without further ado, can you please say a few words for the audience so they know they're listening to the right person?
All right, testing 1 2 1 2. So yeah, some background. Why not? Let's see. So I'm originally from South Africa. So I was born in South Africa in Cape Town. Lived there for 15 years, and my parents got divorced when I was really young. So my mom remarried, and we ended up moving to Switzerland when I was 15. So moved to Switzerland, finished high school over there, did the whole like international school thing, the IB, which a couple people listening will know.
I did that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like we know, right? It's
right.
Like, it's like a fraternity almost. So it was in Switzerland, and towards the end of high school over there, it was time to pick your, like where you were going to go for college, what your major was going to be and everything. And for me, it was really weird because I came from South Africa where all I spoke was English. They were still teaching us Afrikaans at that point, which is like, not the most utilized language anymore. Yeah. And so I've got to decide what I want to do, but my German isn't good enough after being in Switzerland for like 3 years to work in, like journalism or something over there. And the whole point that we left South Africa was my family was just fed up with the crime, to be honest. Like we had so many instances of like hijackings and robberies and yeah. Like literally every family member. Like that's not even an exaggeration. Like my mom people tried to hijack her twice.
Wow.
What they didn't know is that my mom used to teach police officers how to shoot guns.
So, jokes on them.
There were some unlucky, I have some good stories, but like maybe this isn't the place for it. I'll tell you guys later. So anyway, I decided that I wanted to do journalism. I knew that I wanted to write, but at the same time I was very creative and I loved graphic design. And as part of a work experience that I did at one point in high school, I actually went to London and sort of, not interned officially, but I kind of shadowed their chief photographer and graphic designer. And so I learned a lot, and I really caught the bug of just like making things in Photoshop. And I know like Photoshop experts watching this are like, you're not supposed to make anything in Photoshop, it's to edit. It's like, all right, dude, give me a break. But anyway, I really loved that. And so when it came time to choose a major, I loved writing, I loved journalism. My English literature teacher told me that I was making a huge mistake. But I also was considering the visual side and almost came down to a coin toss. It didn't. I would never do that with my future. But ultimately, what I decided was that journalism felt like more of a skill that you would like go to university to learn, whereas visual, I feel like you're either a visual artistic person or you're not. And, 90% of that is going to be your raw skill, whereas you can kind of like, refine the edges and stuff by learning like software and things like that in your own time, or even at an Apple store. Like the one in Williamsburg yesterday, they were teaching people Photoshop. It's great. Yeah. So I went to journalism path, went to NYU. So that's how I came here to the States.
Okay. And you came right away here to New York?
Yeah, well, actually, funny you mentioned that. I got into the program I wanted, or the major I wanted, which is journalism. But I got this letter. So keep in mind, I'm in Switzerland at the time, right? And I'm sitting there in like high school in my bedroom, and I get this letter from NYU, and it starts off with "unfortunately." And I applied early decision too, so I basically canceled like everything else. And I'm like, oh my God, I literally got that letter. And I keep reading, and it says, unfortunately, and this is a long time, I don't remember the exact language, but it was something to the effect of, unfortunately, you didn't get exactly what you applied for, but you're still in for a journalism major, well, journalism and history, which is why I doubled in, but your freshman year has to be in Florence, Italy, at our campus there. And I'm like, cool. Okay, wait, so let me just get this straight. This letter starts off with unfortunately, but you're telling me that instead of flying to New York for freshman year, my parents basically get to drive me 5 hours to Florence from Zurich. Yeah. I can go back and visit them whenever I want, which is like, I'm very independent, but if there's anything I've learned over, especially in the last few years, last year even, is like family is key. I mean, you really cannot replace that. And you're going to have relationships that last forever, that something happens and they're gone. You're going to have great relationships, you're going to have bad relationships, anything can happen. Family is always going to be there. And even if you have like just a small amount of it, it's worth like, it's just way more. So anyway, Yeah, so I came here for college after Florence, so I did a full year there, which was great. And then basically by the time I finished my second year of college, which was my first year in New York, I was back on track with where I would have been with that entire major in the 4 years. And because I had IB credit, I was actually able to graduate a semester early. So I did 3.5 years. So 1 in Florence, 2.5 in New York. And from there, I basically decided New York is the only place I want to be, at least for the next couple of years. Before I'd even been to New York, in my Zurich art class, I was creating murals with the Beastie Boys and with Brooklyn Bridge, and I was doing collages and paintings and street art graffiti all around New York. I knew I was going to end up here. I didn't know how or why. I'd literally never even been to the United States, not even once. I'd watched a lot of Friends episodes. Probably had something to do with it, but I was obsessed and I knew it was going to be here. So after college, I went through everything you have to go through, the student visas and the OPT and the work visas and then the switches and around everything. And that's been just a lot of work over the years, but obviously it's worth it to be here. And so I started out at Men's Fitness, interning for them while I was still in college at NYU. And we had to basically do your junior year and your senior year, you had to intern somewhere different places, right? So I went to Men's Fitness first, and this is around the time that, I graduated December 2009, so we're probably talking maybe a year before that. Journalists are getting laid off everywhere. This is peak magazine bloodshed, right? Newspapers. I was coming into the office and every other week there was 1 or 2 fewer people. Yeah, and so, as an intern though, it's what you realize very quickly is it's a massive opportunity. And, it's not you never want someone to lose their job, but if you're an intern somewhere and people are losing their jobs and all of a sudden there's all this work that has to get done, no one's coming to you to say do it because you're just an intern. And it's funny, I've created this rule. Someone told me this and I've adopted it. Someone once told me, well, interns are all idiots. And I said, well, that's not fair because I was an intern. I didn't think I was an idiot. They're like, no, you were. Even if you're smart, interns, they just you can't know that much about the business in the beginning, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I just sort of started putting my hand up, and I started getting this fact checking, and then this interview, write these questions. Now do the interview yourself. Now transcribe it, and then before I knew it, I was actually writing full page stories for print as an intern in a glossy national magazine, which is not something that happens anywhere ever. So I knew I was onto something good. And I created great relationships there. And by the time that internship was over, or I had to end it because of the semester, and there was time to go somewhere else, I didn't want to go anywhere else because I knew that it was a good thing. It was in the field that I wanted, which was health, fitness, wellness, and it was a national title. And so I talked to the professors. I tried to see if I could stay. They said I have to go somewhere else. So I ended up finding an internship at Spin, the music magazine. And I start working at Spin, and they tell me okay, I think it was 3 days a week or something. But the thing was, they wanted me to spend an entire day just answering the phones. I think once or twice a week. And as someone who's paying an NYU tuition and you have to do an internship as part of this, I really don't think Welcome to Spin Media, how may I direct your call is going to teach me anything about the business here. And I'm pretty sure that's probably the type of stuff that led to that massive lawsuit years ago with the intern who wanted to be paid. Anyway, so I was not enjoying that. I was getting a little bit of writing done, all online. So I got to write about Guitar Hero and Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, which is pretty cool. But the piece would print online and it would be aside from the byline, I wouldn't recognize a word in that story.
That you wrote?
No, not a single word. And so I would talk to the editor and get who am I? I'm no one at this point, right? This guy's busy. He's a section editor. But anyway, I remember just feeling I was asking him why he was changing things so I could learn. And he was so busy he couldn't tell me. And I remember thinking, this is cool because I'm getting clips and it looks good in my resume, but I'm not actually learning anything over here. I'm not getting feedback. He's helping me by putting clips out there, but they're not me. And if anyone hires me based on these clips, they're going to know 5 minutes into the job that that wasn't me, right?
Yeah.
So eventually I called NYU and I basically was I really think this is a good idea to switch back to the other one. And they allowed me to do it. And then my second call from that same desk was to the features editor at Men's Fitness. And I was like, hey, dude, you guys still have some open desks, right? And he's like, Oh yeah. So I left the internship that day at Spin. The editor told me that I was making the biggest mistake of my life.
Jeez.
And this is like an established editor talking to a college student in journalism. They're making the biggest mistake of my life. Well, I don't know if you followed, but that magazine folded and everyone there lost their jobs. So no comment.
You're like, I'm good.
Anyway, so I'll try to speed this up because I know it's taking a little time. So at Men's Fitness as an intern, then eventually moved into the supplement industry briefly because of just work visa. Frankly, I needed to be hired full-time, and I was part-time at the time with Men's Fitness. And so I went to a supplement company called Twin Lab, and there I was doing sales copy for the website for like protein supplements, creatine, like vitamins, you name it. They did everything. And again, small team, report directly to director of marketing, and I just got massive responsibility. I only worked there for a year and a half because about a year and 3 or 4 months later, the old deputy editor from Men's Fitness reached out to me and said, "We have a job for a food and nutrition editor. Do you know anyone?" And I was like, "Yeah, this guy." I just spent the last year and a bit doing like literally just nutrition, and I know your magazine like so well, and we'll get along. So I went in, interviewed, did the edit test, and that gave me the job as the food and nutrition editor across not just Men's Fitness, but Men's Fitness, Muscle and Fitness, Hers, and Flex magazine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so just 4 titles. It's just sort of their enthusiast group. And it's sort of like the whole spectrum you can really imagine from Men's Fitness being the guy who works out because he has to and doesn't want to be fat, to Muscle and Fitness, the guy who really loves being in the gym, to Flex where it's the guy wants to break through the gym so he can get to a bigger gym. And then Muscle and Fitness Hers, which is, that's an interesting one. for me to be editing at least, right?
Yeah.
But it went really well, and I can't remember how long I did that exactly for. It was 1 or 2 years, but what I really decided I wanted from that point was to be more on the lifestyle side, still within health, fitness, wellness, but Men's Fitness was where I wanted to be because it was closer to mags that I actually read as well, like Men's Fitness, Men's Health, GQ, Esquire, which weren't all just that hardcore, veins. And so I was able to transition to Men's Fitness as their senior editor. So I sort of got that promotion. And then that's when really interesting things started to happen because, at this point, I'm doing a ton of work, I'm super busy, but it's all good because it's work that I have no business doing at that point. But I'm getting good at it because I'm getting to do it. So I'm rising a lot quicker than you would normally rise.
And what do you mean you had no business doing that?
I had no business doing it in that I didn't have enough time under my belt to really warrant me being there.
Got it.
To be honest with you, and this is not a secret, I'll talk about this all day.
Yeah.
When I was hired as the food and nutrition editor of Men's Fitness, editorially speaking,
Got it.
prior to that I was an editorial assistant. And that jump does not happen.
Yeah.
You talk to anyone in magazines, that's not supposed to happen. You are an intern, then you're an editorial assistant, then maybe you get assistant editor or associate editor, and then assistant associate editor, and then it's just,
usually a lot more
it
time.
goes on a long time. Yeah, so to be a section editor like that, just for food and nutrition, for a magazine where that's, arguably one of the most important parts, it was a big deal, and it was a lot of pressure, and I think I recognized that, and so I really wanted to step up to the challenge. So, at Men's Fitness at this point, senior editor, and then things get interesting. One thing that happens is a company called Galvanized starts working with American Media, which owns Men's Fitness. Well, Men's Fitness isn't around anymore, you guys know this. They folded into Men's Journal. But Galvanized was started by Dave Zinsenker and Steve Perrine, and they were both at Men's Health prior to that, Rodale. And those guys are, along with a couple other people, Joe Heron, amazing designer, who's literally the guy who invented the yellow highlight on the cover. You see all the mags doing that, it was his idea back in the day. Those 3, definitely I'd say especially Dave, but also Steve to a huge extent, they are responsible for the men's health that we all know. Steve launched Best Life. Dave was the editor-in-chief of Men's Health for God knows how many years, worked there over a decade. He launched Women's Health as well. He was the guy who started putting celebrities on the cover. I was in college dreaming of being an editor, reading Dave's editorial letter at the front of the magazine. And so all of a sudden, this new consulting company comes on board. They're no longer working with Rodale and Men's Health. They're now consulting under Galvanized with Men's Fitness and American Media. And Dave comes in, and after a few weeks of working together, promotes me to deputy editor of Men's Fitness. So that's kind of like if you dream of playing football and then you get on the field and like Tom Brady's like, do you know what? I'm from South Africa. I play rugby. I don't know anything about football. Right in the middle of this analogy, I'm like, I know Tom Brady. I know football is going to be a good. Okay. It was surreal. It was like someone who like I wanted to be like. I wanted to do what they did one day, and then here I am like doing it with them. Obviously not at the same level, but like it was very cool. Like we're meeting weekly, and like, you know, he gave me responsibilities that I had to fire 2 people that were above me.
Mm-hmm.
That was weird. Like at the time, I definitely didn't want to do that, but I did it, and it taught me a lot about dealing with stuff like that. When you have your own company, like that's important. You have to know that. So I start writing. Like now the opportunities just blow up. Like now I'm writing cover stories. So Hugh Jackman, cover of the magazine. Jamie Foxx, Jimmy Johnson. I probably did about 8 or 9 of those. One for Muscle and Fitness as well. And at this point, I've been at the company for a while, and I feel like there might be something else out there. And I don't want to get too into the reason why, but all I'll say is that it involves... Okay, Men's Fitness is owned by American media. Mm-hmm. And if you Google, do your own research, you'll see that they've been in the headlines for some interesting things recently. So not that I had any inkling of that back then, but I'm trying to think of how to say this in a safe way. People weren't always so comfortable working there. You didn't always know what was going to happen. Yeah. So I figured that I had gotten to a really good point in my career at a very young age. I mean, at this point, I'm like 26, maybe 27, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just nuts. And and Dave actually told me one day, he goes, he said that he thought I could beat him to be the editor of, like, I could get to become editor-in-chief of Men's Fitness faster than he got to be editor-in-chief of Men's Health. And I thought that was really cool when he told that to me. Yeah. So there was part of me that really did want to stick around and see what would happen, but it did feel like it was time to start looking around. And so I got an offer from NBC Universal, and I thought, this is interesting. So I looked into it, and basically they were launching a fitness video service called Radius. And Radius was going to be like the, the Netflix of fitness. Like, what streaming fitness service doesn't try call themselves the Netflix of fitness? Yeah. But that's what they wanted to be. Yeah. And if anyone was equipped to do it, it was them. Mm-hmm. Because, they had millions of dollars in the project. They think of everything NBC has built in, like the Today Show, Super Bowl at the time. So they had a Super Bowl ad. They had their trainers on the Today Show. And they brought me on to create an editorial destination that would be for people who subscribe to this service, and it would be exclusive for them. So, like, in other words, if you are a Netflix member, there's a special, like, Netflix Entertainment Weekly, like, just for you and members like you. So this was awesome because for me, it was the opportunity to leave sort of like legacy, to leave, Men's Fitness and to create my own version of what I'd been doing in like however I wanted. And it was even more exciting because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. It wasn't a case of like, I could do anything. I had known for a long time what I wanted, and this gave me a chance to do it. And what I wanted was, I realized this was like peak Well and Good, right? Like, so, green juice, like the smoothies, the turmeric, the whatever, like, Well and Good was on fire at this point. It's all anyone was talking about, like any group fitness studio. Like, oh, did you read this on Well and Good? And I love Well and Good, I still do. But it doesn't feel like it's for guys, right? Like, it's very clean, negative space, lots of like eucalyptus leaves in the shower, like, you know what I mean? And I wanted guys to have something like that felt like maybe not necessarily a guy's website, but at least a neutral one where you could have that same kind of cool factor and that quality of like imagery and people who really understand the nuances of fitness, who are writing your content, which is so important. Mm-hmm. And I wanted that for everyone, which isn't to say Well and Good is trying to like just talk to women. I just felt like I had a directive and I saw a massive opportunity. So, I create my editorial calendar. I've got my list of freelancers ready. I've got even a separate plan on how I'm going to integrate like their video stuff into my editorials so we can like cross promote. And essentially what it became was a waiting game where I would meet with my boss, who was the president of digital for all of NBC Universal. So my direct boss was president of digital for NBC Universal. And so overseeing everything from like Fandango to like you name it. And every time we would meet, I'd given him my budget already. And he would say, oh, we're having a meeting, like we're going to let you know by next week it should be approved. It's like, okay. It's like, just so you know, I can't assign a single story until I have budget, like, because I'm going to put like my credit card, you know what I mean? To pay a writer. So it's like, no, wait, it's okay. Next week. Long story short, 6 months later,
Still nothing?
everyone working on Radius got laid off.
Wow.
Sad.
They didn't reach the, I believe the story we were told, if memory serves, was that they didn't get to the number, like the user base that they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently once they got to that user base on the video side, that was going to unlock my budget for the editorial side, and then I'd be able to put my foot on the gas for that.
Mm-hmm.
But because
Never
they never got that, I never got to get a budget for my thing. And so basically I was kind of just like I feel it's weird saying this, but like I was sort of just like a really well-paid intern, because I had an office. Like I had a freaking office with a flat screen on the wall and a glass front, like coming from working in a cubicle at Men's Fitness. Like magazine editors don't have offices like you see in like the September issue or like whatever. Like Devil Wears Prada. It's very different now. Like if you go to Vice, like you'll think you're in the Matrix, but like not in the Matrix, like the shitty Matrix where you get plugged in. Like not with the girl wearing the red dress. Yeah, exactly. This job like called for me to spend half of my week in Stamford, Connecticut. So like half of the week I was in 30 Rock, half of the week I was in Stamford, and I was taking like the 6 train to Grand Central, then I think it was the Metro North, Metro North I think, to Stamford, and then the NBC like company shuttle over there. So I was going like 2 hours almost one way. Yeah. Right? 4 hours. So it was intense. It was a lot. But I gotta say, when I was at 30 Rock, working on the same floor as SNL and Seth Meyers was like,
That sounds cool.
You're passing each other to the floor. Like I'm watching Florence and the Machine like tune up before their like SNL rehearsal. It was insane. It was amazing. But you know, like equal highs and lows, this amazing thing turned into one of like the worst chapters of my life, which have again turned into one of the best. Because all of a sudden I had to leave the country. I had no work visa anymore. And it's not a case of like, oh yeah, you got a couple months to figure it out. It's like, no, you gotta go like right away. So within the space of about 2 weeks after losing that job, I ended my relationship, moved out of my apartment, our apartment, and packed whatever I could fit into 2 check bags.
So you were going back?
So I went back. I had to leave the country. So I didn't take a single piece of furniture. I didn't take anything. Imagine my whole life until then as an editor, all the cool shit you get sent, all the things, all the experiences, all the little like things you collect. I didn't take anything with me. I literally took clothes and my laptop, basically. And so I have an Austrian passport because my dad's Austrian. So at the time, it's like, okay, what do I do? Because I'm not going back to South Africa because I'm not trying to die. And also, I don't know if you've been watching the news about South Africa recently, but electricity is kind of an issue now. Like people might not have it anymore for who knows how long. So anyway, I'm like, okay, not going there. Should probably try to go somewhere English speaking because I do journalism. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be hard to go somewhere else. So my parents live in Switzerland. I decided, you know what, I'm going to go spend like a couple weeks with them, just get out of this, take some time. Like started meditating, started doing a bit more yoga, got into a nice little flow. And I found a job with Men's Health UK in London. So that was really cool because I'd always wanted to work for Men's Health. Men's Fitness was, it was great. It was an amazing experience, but you know, even at the time, I would tell you like it was a stepping stone to Men's Health. That's where I wanted to be. That's the number one, the biggest men's brand in the world. So I get this job, Men's Health UK, and I mean, without giving you actual numbers, let's just say that like my salary at NBC was 6 figures, and in London, if it was New York terms, I wouldn't even be able to live here. Like I ended up in an apartment with 2 strangers, and I was sleeping on a twin bed
in London.
And my room was not big enough for 2 twin beds. Wow. So from like deputy editor of Men's Fitness to director of editorial and content for NBC to like living in what literally it felt like a crack house. It was like it wasn't a crack house, but it was just like I didn't know these guys. Thank God they ended up being nice, but like the one guy went back to Australia soon. The other guy was from Spain. He eventually left. Like friends, girlfriends. I'm just like, cool. Yeah, all right. This is just like the real world, I guess. Like I don't know what this is, but all I knew was that the most important thing was that I was working at Men's Health and I was in London and I could speak English. So I knew that there was a way forward with just that one thing that I could hang on to. because I've always believed that your title is what advances you, not your salary.
Mhm.
So in other words, if you're ever in a situation where you are being given the option, and it sucks that you have to even be presented with this choice, but this is what happens.
Mhm.
If you're ever in a situation where you are being presented with either a new title or a raise,
Mhm.
if you can afford to stay on your current salary for a bit longer, take the title, don't take the raise.
Mhm.
Because taking the raise is going to prevent you probably for getting a new title for a long time.
Yeah.
Also, no one knows how much money you are making. So if you just got a new title, like everyone's assuming you just got a raise.
Mhm.
And if you're going to start looking for another job, well, now you're looking for a job with that title
Yeah.
versus the other title you had. Who cares how much money you're making? You're going to leave that job anyway. You're not going to be making it for long.
Yeah.
So if you can afford it, always take the title.
Yeah.
So speaking of title, I was given a very interesting title there.
What was
like
it?
commissioning editor, which I think is it's just one of those more like kind of Britishisms, I guess. Like, it's a word here, but we didn't really use it like that. Commissioner, oh, that would have been cool. So essentially, I was in charge of editing the entire front of book section, which is called Agenda. So it's the biggest section in the print magazine, and it's sort of all-encompassing: style, fitness, nutrition, relationships, like travel. So that was really cool because that took me right back to what I was doing at Men's Fitness. At Men's Fitness, after I was promoted to deputy editor, I completely overhauled the front of the book section and gave it a new name. I called it Game Changers, and it was my section that I owned. And I turned that into the Game Changers feature that happened every year in the October issue, I believe it was. And then that turned into the Game Changers party, which happened in LA, and I got to the red carpet there. So I was like growing this franchise. That's like always been my thing. Like I like to see an evolution of a brand.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I really started to have fun with at Men's Health in the US, which is where I went next. So basically living in London for a year, I had been talking to editors at Men's Health US prior to that. And I had actually been offered a job there twice while I was in London at Men's Health in New York, well, in the US. But the problem was it was at their head office in Emmaus. At one point, I was even offered executive editor, which is ridiculous. Like, that is the #2 job at the biggest men's magazine in the world. Like, that was a really, really hard one to say no to, but we didn't even get to talking about salary because I couldn't be in Pennsylvania. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Emmaus, Pennsylvania, like, living there, it just wouldn't work because part of it was to also get back with the person I was dating at the time.
Okay.
And she was sort of a visible person, so, it would be virtually impossible for her to do that. And plus there were plans to like go to California, and like it just didn't work. So eventually we found a way. And I was approached by Men's Health US and got a job. What was the first one? It was deputy editor of digital projects. So essentially what that meant was I was in charge of the like branded content division. So like when brands were coming to Men's Health, like, hey, we want to like add a story about this and like buy ads around it, or we want the story to be about like this theme or anything, kind of develop like a tiered system of like sponsored, co-branded, native, and work very closely with like the sales team, the marketing team, RFPs, and then figuring out how to do that. And we've made a lot of revenue. It was really cool because it was the time when people were still kind of figuring out branded content. So, it wasn't as evolved as it is now. So everything was exciting. Everyone was still like really interested in like what the FTC was going to say because they were coming out with this big report, and like I had to read through that like hundreds of pages. It was super interesting, and even more interesting to realize that even the FTC didn't fully understand the rules because they were contradicting themselves by using. If you ever read it, I mean, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, but if you ever feel like reading through the FTC guidelines for branded content, you'll find they actually use phrases interchangeably like native, branded, sponsored, and they're not actually the same thing. And worse, I think they mean different things at different publishers. So it's still sort of like just like gray area, black box. But generally speaking, as long as you can reasonably expect someone looking at that post to understand that it's sponsored, that is all you need. So it's not about the words. You can use the words they give you. If you use them in the wrong way, if you bury them, you're still gonna get in trouble.
So is that the reason why Facebook, for example, has sponsor stories? It says sponsored.
Yeah, there you go.
So the brands won't get in trouble since Facebook, no matter what, will say sponsored.
Yeah, look, I mean, I definitely don't know the conversations at Facebook, but I can tell you that being transparent is an absolute must. You have to, otherwise they can come after you. So I started Men's Health doing that job, and all I knew was the thing that was happening in front of me at the time was important, and that was going to be my way out. into something else. So that's what I focused on. And then that turned into the job with Men's Health US. So ended up coming over here, doing branded content, and then after that, a new editor-in-chief came in, promoted me to brand editor, which essentially meant that I was responsible for anything with a Men's Health logo on it, whether it was like menshealth.com or a Men's Health wall calendar sold in like Egypt. Like if there was a Men's Health logo on it, I had to look at it and make sure that it was consistent, like tone, brand standards, quality. Everything had to feel like it was something created by Men's Health. And it didn't matter like the licensing deal or where it was or the term or whatever, like it had to all feel legit. So I was all of a sudden working on things like the Men's Health box, which is like a quarterly subscription box, and helping to like pick products for that, and then integrating editors into that process. So like I redesigned that whole box and the whole like way they chose products. Then I created an event series called MH Workshop, which is, it's probably one of my favorite things I've ever created for like someone else, like a company. And I'm so upset that they didn't continue it after I left. Really just because I was the only one working on it, so I don't think there was anyone to kind of carry the torch. It was called MH Workshop. And the premise behind MH Workshop, this probably started like, let's say a year or so right before I left, just under a year. The idea was like, group fitness was becoming really, really popular. And we were talking about this before we started recording, how at some studios, it's really easy to injure yourself, right? Like if you don't know what you're doing. And whether it's, at least now with, as studios sort of progress, like, people are paying more attention to like trainer certifications and safety and things like that. But for a long time, you've got like, now still, but it was more so in the beginning, a lot of these instructors were being like just kind of pulled off Broadway because they had the personality and they had the fire. And that's how you get someone to come to every like Monday morning 7 a.m. class. It's not because they love Monday morning 7 a.m. It's because they love Cassie or Martin or whoever the person is. And they love their energy. And it's like, that high five on the way in and the conversation when you're like changing out of like your cycling shoes or whatever. So group fitness was on fire. It was really catching on at that point. And I was noticing how, this is kind of like after like CrossFit's already sort of happened and everyone's talked about like, CrossFit, the hive of injuries and blah, blah, blah. Like that's a very nuanced conversation that like, it's not that black and white. But when you sort of combine those two things, I looked at it and I was like, group fitness is really just another way for people to get injured if they don't have any type of like fitness foundation, right? Because I'll just repeat some of what we said before because I know that we weren't recording, but there's some studios where there is a lot of focus on like the theatrics, right? Like, like it's dark, it's kind of like, like high school disco lighting, like some places literally have disco balls. And that coupled with high intensity, which is the other like, really popular mode of workouts these days, is things are happening quickly. You have to do it with intensity. You can't just like kind of like daisy through it. And if you don't know what you're doing in that situation, that's a recipe for disaster. And so I was realizing that there really wasn't a way to like protect people from what was happening. Like I can go into a class with no fitness experience. Lights are dim, blue, red, green, flashing, strobe light, whatever. They yell go, and now some instructors try to tell me how to do a single leg like deadlift with a dumbbell in this hand and like a band around my hips. Now, if I've never done a deadlift before, or if I've never done a squat before, I don't know the concept of like tilting my pelvis or shifting my hips or putting my weight in the balls of my heels or pushing my legs out or keeping my back flat. Like each one of those like random things I just fired off right now is so important. Like you guys know this, right? You train here. So like if you throw yourself in that situation, it's a miracle if you don't get injured. And sometimes you can't even hear the instructors because the music's so loud. So, and I'm not hating, I love group fitness. I represent group fitness clients. I did a group boxing class right before I did this, right before I came here. So I wanted to find a solution, if not for the whole industry, though that's a little ambitious, for Men's Health to at least do something about it. So Men's Health Workshop, the idea was that we would create these sort of like group health, fitness, wellness experiences. So breaking it out of just fitness and then bring in the sort of like best experts available to sort of like take you through it, like add that extra layer. So to give you an example, we did the first one at Dog Pound. And so at Dog Pound, we had the trainer Rain lead the class, who came in top 3 at the MH Open, which was a massive fitness competition that we organized. Walk people through every single movement, like the airdyne, the ski erg, the medicine balls, like everything that was done that day. Went through it in great detail, talked about the benefits, the mechanics, and then we brought in complementary brands. So we brought in like a protein brand, like we had Owen, like plant-based protein, we had cold brew from Rise, we brought in some like resistant bands and things from like other partners. But the idea was that we would keep doing these, and every time we did it, it would have a very specific theme, and we would educate people on that. So first one was Dog Pound, which is sort of like functional fitness. Then we went to Everybody Fights, which is funny because like now they're a PR client. Back then, I was just writing about them and just getting to know George. And then we did, then I switched gears and partnered with Lululemon. So we did one at Hub 17 downstairs, and we had a panel. So I got Brian Mazza, Ali Teach, Sham Chidori to be on a panel that I moderated, all about mindfulness and working mindfully and like how that comes into your workouts and everything. And then we had a guided meditation led by a Lululemon meditation ambassador afterwards. So that was the idea of like creating this sort of community and taking people through these like targeted themed events and just like educating them more about it. And it was in a great place to keep going. I mean, I was talking to Reebok about the next one. It was going to be running. It was going to happen in Central Park. I had the whole idea. I still have it. Still think it could be great for the right brand, so I'm not going to get too into it right now. But it really had legs. And then on one of my last days there, I heard that Michelob Ultra was actually interested in sponsoring a 5th one. So I was like, man, it was a team of me. Like I organized every event. I came up with the events, made the flyers, created the Eventbrites, like went there, like stood at the door with the list. It was just a cool idea that I had, and I had an editor-in-chief that, for better or worse, was really into trying new things all the time. And so, ideas like that could fly. And I've been lucky to work with, not everyone that I've worked with has been a great working relationship, but most of them, the vast majority have. And I've been lucky enough to meet with people who are similar to me, where we understand that you eat what you kill. And if you want to work harder to be more successful, you should have the ability to do that. And if you want to work less hard, well, then that should be reflected too. Yeah. And that's the thing that always frustrated me about corporate life and working 9 to 5, was that I wanted to work hard. I wanted to do more. But like, what motivation did I have? You know what I mean? Like, it's a crumbling industry. People aren't getting paid more. They're getting paid less. You're just being asked to do more for the same amount of money. Meanwhile, teams are getting cut. You talk to anyone doing online journalism today, like, good luck getting more than half an hour of the time because they don't have it. So yeah, so it was really nice to get into like the experiential side of things and be able to try stuff. I mean, another one of my favorite projects was the MH Rec Room. This was really cool. So that same editor-in-chief basically tasked me with doing something to take advantage of all the amazing fitness talent that we have here in New York City. So we live in New York, yet we're setting up shoots in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, so that we can have a trainer from the West Village go there, shoot like a bench press, and then come back here. And then like why did we just do that? Yeah. Meanwhile, look at every gym and studio we have right here. It's a beehive. So basically I was tasked with coming up with a way to take advantage of this for the express goal of video content, because this is right around everyone's pivoting to video, right? So I came up with the MH Rec Room, and the idea was that we would clear out a big section of cubicles from our office, which won't be used anymore. Yeah. And we ripped the cubicles out, called in furniture from, we had an amazing fashion team at the time, Sandra Nygaard, Brian Boyer, and Dan Michael. And basically they helped me create a relationship with Pottery Barn. So I got all of this like amazing furniture into that space, totally free of charge, obviously create video content around it, to have like an interview space, kind of like what we're doing over here. And then the other piece of the room did a similar thing via our fitness editor at the time, Ebenezer Samuel, who connected me with Matrix. So now we had a cable station, we had a dumbbell rack, we had weights, we had everything. So we created the spot called the MH Rec Room, where it was like pot, sit down fitness. Actually, it's basically where we are right now. You've got a gym here and you've got couches here. And then I started just going crazy with my contact list. I emailed every trainer I know. The first person we had to come in was Mantis Svinus, who is now a client. Like, it's just insane how this all works. He's the founder of Surf Yoga Beer. He's also a senior SoulCycle instructor. and just like a very rare human. Like he's few people are like that selfless and chill about everything. But anyway, the whole idea was like we would have people come in, shoot video content with them. So right out the gate, I'm like, all right, we're going to do trainer of the day. We're going to do the best exercise you're not doing, which is the name of a page I edited in London for Men's Health, but they didn't have Men's Health US, and I thought it was a great franchise. Best exercise you're not doing. Busy burner, which was like a really quick workout you could do in like 15 to 20 minutes. And we had 2 more because we had 5 total. And so I start calling in trainers, and like fast forward 3 weeks even, I'm seeing like 5 trainers a day in the MH rec room where our office is. I'm shooting them. Okay, I'm reaching out to them to book them, right? Coordinating them to come in. I'm then shooting them on an iPad, right? Doing workout stuff. Then, cool, nice to see you, goodbye. We're shooting about 5 pieces every time. So I'm like getting like each of those franchises from each person and maybe a couple of both. So we have like some ammo. And then editing video on the same iPad in, what was I using? Adobe.
What year was this?
This was, we're until 19, so back a few years. This is like my last year at Men's Health, and the business has been around. Oh, okay, so I left Men's Health February of last year. So this is right up until February of last year.
Okay, just wondering, because the iPad camera wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Like even 3 years ago. Right?
Yeah, no, so this was, the iPad Pro came out.
Oh, okay,
and
yes.
one thing you also have to understand about editors is like, they get sent everything.
Yeah.
Like I was walking around with like officially they're loans, but I mean like you sign loan paperwork, but I mean, I have an iPad mini that I was loaned by Apple like when I was like an editorial assistant at Men's Fitness. To give you an idea of how long ago that was. So I'm like, you know, at the time like iPhone, Apple Watch, like swagged out. I know people who got like laptops and stuff, which is crazy to me, but like it's Apple, like they kind of have some money.
Yeah.
So this was the iPad Pro had just come out, and I was thinking about Men's Health Rec Room. So I felt, you know, really proud of myself that I was actually able to call in this free thing so I could use it for like a very specific work purpose. And I said to my contact there, I was like, I don't really have a way of covering the iPad Pro right now, but what I can do is I can shoot every single video and edit every single video on this. And I thought that it would be really appealing to them because that was like, you know, they have all like the shot on Apple like ads.
Exactly.
And I thought this could be a really cool like shot on Apple type thing. Like Men's Health does all of its in-office video on an Apple iPad.
Did they say yes?
Well, so it's funny. I talked to our sales team because I wanted them to try and do something with Apple around that because I thought, you know, we're talking about 2 massive international brands. They didn't think it would be anything, so we didn't do anything. But Apple sent me the iPad Pro because they were cool, and they were like, "It sounds like a cool project. We want to see what you're doing."
That's cool.
And so I started shooting it and editing there, and so and then I also got I had this lens. It's called Olo Clip, or OLLO, I think.
He knows.
And it's it flips 2 ways, and you can have like fisheye, wide angle, and you can put it on like an iPad or a phone or something. And so I started using that, and I made sure I always used the same wide lens. So that's, first of all, the space would look bigger, but second of all, we would create a visual identity for these videos so that you would just kind of sense that it was a Men's Health Rec Room video just by looking at it, because we had kind of a unique lens that I used. So, you know, I don't have the exact number, but I worked with over 180 trainers. I think I went over 200.
All in New York.
In New York, just in New York,
Wow.
every single day.
Wow. Yeah,
and it was awesome. I mean, eventually, like, keep in mind, like, when I was in that job and I was basically like just trying new things and creating stuff. First of all, I knew that when Hearst was going to acquire Rodale, my days were numbered because at Hearst you're either print or digital. So I was constantly talking to sales, saying like, "We got to sponsor this. We got to sponsor this. We got to sponsor that. Like, get it sponsored." Yeah. But meanwhile, they're just like, "Well, we sponsor online stories and we sponsor like this and that." It like didn't fit into a bucket, and I'm like, "That's the whole point. Like, I'm building new buckets here. Like, we're trying to, you know, like change the game here. Like, that's what every publisher is doing right now, trying to figure out how to make all this shit work because print's not doing it." And unfortunately, where the industry is currently residing, or like taking a little breather, is with referral, like referral. Sorry, God,
influential?
No. Affiliate commerce. So basically, like you'll hear it be called things like AFCOM, like affiliate commerce, or content, like commercial content.
Yep.
The idea here is publishers create deals with Amazon's a huge one. There are agencies like Viglinks is one. I'm not sure of the others, but essentially these places have a network of brands. And so if you work with that agency, and let's say Nike is one of the brands under there, every time you mention a Nike product online and someone buys that, the publisher is actually getting a cut of that sale. And so with Amazon, it's even juicier because it's you get a percentage of cart value, even if they don't buy that product. So put it this way, like if I do a story, like the 10 best running shoes, right? You go read the story and you're like, oh, this one from Brooks looks cool. You click it, takes you to Amazon, right? You're looking at the thing on Amazon, like maybe you buy it, great. Men's Health gets, or whoever, or them at the time, Rodale would get a cut of that. But now let's say you go to that page on Amazon, you're like, you know what, like I actually don't really love these shoes anymore. Oh, look, a grill. And then you click on the grill and you buy the grill, and the grill is like $3,000. They'll still get a percentage of your total cart value, even though you didn't buy that.
Well, because you, I guess, initiated the
because you went there through them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why now you see a ton of product content. And that's why you see brands that have been around for decades creating sub-brands or even totally separate brands that are specifically geared around like product reviews and product write-ups because it's a money machine.
Yeah.
And so as a publicist, it's a good thing and a bad thing. First of all, if you have clients that are on Amazon, it's a great time for that. But if you're trying to pitch like just good journalism, there aren't going to be as many ears these days because it's really like, it's about the revenue. Look, these are all businesses, all of this has always been about money. But like within that, there's room for, like quality service. And I think that space is getting smaller and smaller because the mounting financial pressure of dealing with like smaller circulation, and then that results in lower advertising prices, and like, you got to sort of look at the whole picture together. So it's an interesting time now for sure in editorial. You could say that.
So all that, is this all the whole reason why you went on and created your own company, or how would that
sort of? So okay, I've always been the kind of person, like I just know I had to have my own company. I don't have like conflicts with employers. That's not a thing that's ever been part of me. I've had great relationships, but I just want to do my own thing. It's not like against anyone. It's just for me. That's what I want. And it was like partly just not knowing what I would do. Like I remember when I was living in London, there was one night like I was like on my little pool float bed and I started a Word doc that it just said like DS Consulting. That was the first line. And then I never wrote anything after that because I didn't even, like, to give you an idea of like how I had no idea what I would do. But if you had to like put a gun to my head and make it tell you, I'd probably guess that it would be to do with like, maybe I'll be like writing things for brands, like using my editorial experience to like, like gonna do that. Like that's what I thought maybe would happen, but it really didn't sound exciting. It was like, just like, wow, I don't know. So anyway, February of last year, before that, it's announced that Rodale's acquiring Hearst. That deal goes down, rounds of layoffs start happening. I make it through every time, eventually even go over there, like I'm called over there to do like training and stuff. And then the last round got me. And I kind of knew it was coming, to be honest with you, like new, not felt like actually new for a couple of weeks because I had been talking to people over there and they had told me like, you are either print or you're digital. Like they don't, I was in between. I did a little bit of print, a little bit of digital. I was writing stuff for the magazine and I was writing stuff for the website, had bylines going on both. But the majority of my work was in the middle. And, personally I can look at that and I can be like, it's so frustrating, you're making a mistake, I'm trying to be the future. But at the same time, it's like, when, like, sometimes, this is something I tell to clients a lot, and something that I wish I would have been told earlier in my career, but I'm glad that I at least got here now, which is, you've got to look at things like, on paper, black and white, like what is supposed to happen here? Like what are the terms, what's the agreement? And how are things supposed to go down? How are they supposed to go down? But you also have to look at reality, and you've got to think like if you're dealing with a certain person, like what kind of person are they? Like who are their relationships? What might their motivation be? I don't know if you guys can hear the snoring. Although I don't know if this info is going to be as relevant for her, so I think she's picking a good time to chill. Just being realistic about the fact that like, there are real life factors that influence things. And like if you're having, I had, one talent client. We're working with a company. There's one person at that company that we have a great working relationship with, but that person has been there for years and years and years. Everyone else that we're dealing with at that company now is newer, and rates are all of a sudden lower, and conversations are a little more like chop chop, a little less warm. And so my client rightfully is like, I don't understand. Like, I was being treated one way before and being compensated one way before. And when I deal with that person, I'm still getting that. But now when I deal with the new guard and all these new people at the same company, it feels like a totally different company. And I feel like I'm getting like snubbed almost, or like paid less. And, I talked to him and I was like, look, the way you explain it and the way that it is on paper, like 100% that's not right. Like, that's an issue, right? But then we really went into it and we talked about like, we know these people quite well, especially the one. And I was like, look, that person's been there for a long time. They have a lot of sway. Now, company's growing really fast and they're getting diluted. Like, their influence is getting diluted, but they still have a lot of sway right now. So when you deal with them, you're still going to get like great service. You're going to get upgrades. You're going to get this and that. But when you deal with everyone else, you're not, because they don't have that relationship with you. And the truth of the matter is that's just the new way it is over there. So we can argue until we're blue in the face about how the rate you're getting isn't fair, but you also have to be realistic about the situation and acknowledge that you're not going to get that rate anymore. They've changed their business model. The only reason you're still occasionally getting that rate and that treatment from one person in particular is because that person probably feels the same way, that they're being squeezed out a little bit, right? Because you could probably bet that these new people aren't being paid the same salaries.
Yeah.
So, it's things like that where you have to sort of look at something and be like, you know what? It's unfortunate. So like with me and I guess they were Hearst by the time that I was let go. I'm not even sure, but it's one of those things where it's like, this deal wasn't about Dean. Like, this deal was about a shitload of employees and millions of dollars and a lot of really important brands. I'm gonna be okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm 30, like just turned 31. Got a great career behind me, and things are popping with my current company. So I feel awesome, and thankfully I'm not. I must have got this from my mom, but I'm really not financially motivated. Like, if I can survive, like if I can live somewhere where I'm like decently comfortable and I can just do my job and do my thing, that's it. Like, I don't need to make a lot more than that, and I would rather make a deal for no money and get to work with that person and have them in my network than, and this is not an open invitation for pro bono PR, just want to say, but I do value those relationships over transactions. And I think whenever you can, it's actually similar to like how your title advances you more than your salary. It's, like, money isn't, if you had all the money in the world, it's like, you're probably not, your day that day probably isn't going to change that much, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? But if you have a new title or something, you feel excited. It's like you feel like I did something, or you have a new company that you started or whatever. There's so much more out there than money, and it's hard to say. Usually the people saying that are the people who have it, right? Yeah. And I by no means am someone flushing money right now. Like, moving internationally repeatedly, that takes you down, trust me.
Yep.
That is not cheap. But once you have that mindset, it really changes things, because you start to approach situations from a position of power as opposed to a position of fear. Because you might be able to take money off the table, but you can't take shit away from me. Yeah. Like, the way I'm feeling, like, you cannot like get into my homeostasis. Like, if I'm feeling good, I'm feeling good regardless of what you're doing. And if I've taken money out of the equation for me, you literally cannot hurt me. And once you get that, then you will, like, everything will change. And I noticed it for the first time. I was meeting with a potential client that I actually didn't get. And this was probably around like 4 or 5 months after starting the business. And at the time, I had like almost a full client load anyway. So I was feeling really good. And I realized halfway through this conversation with this guy that I was like, oh my God, like, he's talking right now. We're in this negotiation, well, not even negotiation, still just talking, but I was like, why am I so relaxed right now? Like, I literally stopped in my head. I'm like, I feel super chill right now. What's going on? I realized it was because I didn't need that client. As in, like, I was doing fine financially, wasn't like swimming in it, but it was like I had the amount of clients that I needed to live the life that I wanted. So talking to this client, I was like, yeah, if this works and works for me and it works for you, then like we'll do it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Like, who cares? Like, that's how you should start business agreements, not because of money, right? Yeah, you're getting into it because you want to make money, but there's so much more you have to, and people identify that now. Like, I think I've dealt with people who, you asked me earlier if I've ever had a client that I had an issue with or something. Of course I have. I've learned so much about business and life, probably more about life than business in the last year. I didn't study business or anything. So this is almost like at Men's Health, where I make videos with an iPad. Like, I never made films before, but someone told me to make movies. So I grabbed an iPad and I was like, I'm going to make something, and this is going to be what a Dean movie looks like. Like, I don't know what your movies look like. And so that's what I did with business. It was like, I know what I want to do. I have literally no education on the subject aside from being an editor and the occasional like contracts and this and that. Let's see what happens. And so, with clients, like, I've had some rude awakenings. I'm one of those people that, like, I can't stand the idea of someone having a bad opinion of me or like someone being upset or disappointed with something that I've done. It's probably like to a fault where it makes me like anxious. It gets under my skin. Like, I need to make it right. Like, if someone has an idea about, like, I need to talk to them immediately and like get on the same level and like show them. For some reason I can't deal with that. I don't know why. I don't like people having like bad opinion. So anyway, I want to always please and go above and beyond. And people can take advantage of that. But like, I've had clients, one client specifically, not clients, completely disregard a contract. Like, as in signed contract with term, with this and that. Nah. Some people just do that. What do you do? What are you going to do? Take them to small claims court? Like, how much am I going to spend? How much time am I going to waste to get like, I don't know, like $5,000 or like whatever? It doesn't even matter. It's irrelevant.
And you're definitely not going to get the client back anyways.
Not going to get the client back. You don't even want the client back at that point. But like, they can just walk away and they know that you can't do shit about it.
Exactly.
So it really comes down to using the editorial eye that I developed. Well, actually, no, so that's fine. One of the things I do is I use the editorial eye that I kind of honed as an editor to take on clients. Because I know when I meet a brand, is this something that I would cover as an editor? If it's not, then why would I ever take them on as a client? Because how am I going to convince someone else to cover them when I wouldn't cover them? Right? But if I'm talking about like, everybody fights, like George Foreman III's boxing gym, or like the Magic 5, the world's first 3D custom fit swimming goggles, or Hyperwear, the best weighted vest in the world, and Sandbells. Like, every client I have, I'm excited to talk about because they're great fucking clients. They're awesome. Good. And I used my editorial stringency to pick those clients, right? But what I didn't have before was any type of business radar, right? For like, oh, when someone acts this way in a first conversation, it might mean that they are like this with money or like that with money. I didn't know any of that. And so, like the client I'm mentioning, like, it was a cool client, but the guy sucked. And, what are you going to do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. You can just move on and look at the future. That's really all you can do in those situations. But yeah, the big realization recently has been, I know it's not a positive thing, but it's important to mention, like, there are bad people out there.
Wait.
They are. And, there's people who don't want to do work, people who want the end result without putting in the effort. And then there's also a totally separate class of people who actively like want to take people down. And they're on like a hairpin trigger on that. So you've got to like, I tell, like close friends, not everyone, I'm not really on the speaking circuit or anything, but I tell, close friends and people who I do business with or friends who have their own businesses, just to watch out. Well, no, not to be like, I don't affiliate with anyone who could be that kind of person. Like, there is no room for that. But just warning people that like people like that do exist. Like, even when you're signing an agreement, you've got to be ready for them to deliver nothing. It's unfortunate that that's the case, but like, again, that's where you got to look at it and you can be a little naive, look at it on paper, but you also have to have that realistic view, and that only comes through experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what before off the topic, we also talked about it, that you have mentioned, we talked about it, that especially in gym owners, in their business, that anybody who comes with money, they are like, oh yeah, they are our clients. But no, they are not, because just like you mentioned, you're so happy about your clients, that you have and you go for them and you talk about them and everything. But just like gym owners and trainers, they have clients there who feel the same way. But I guarantee you that they have so many clients who are like, I hate that person. I cannot wait to pass this time. Don't talk to them again. You know, So what you said is that you are really, really pumped about your clients is what everybody should feel like who work in especially the service industry. Because you're going to have to spend a great amount of time with them, right? I assume that you spend time with them and you have to perform for them too. Right?
Yeah, no, I was just boxing at Everybody Fights earlier today, and they opened their Philly studio recently. I was over in Philly twice. It's cool. It finally feels like, of all the jobs I've ever had, it feels like I finally found me. Like this is who I am.
That's awesome.
The PR side is really cool. The talent side is even more fun. I mean, like, you know, like every now and then you start to feel a little bit like Jerry Maguire, but it's such a people business, which I love, like absolutely love it. And you know, another part of it is that like if you're doing something and you're not successful, you're not going to enjoy it as much, and then you start maybe thinking maybe it's time to do something else. I've been fortunate that this business has actually been very successful. It's just over a year now, so left Men's Health in February. Let's see. 13th. Oh yeah, I remember saying they couldn't even wait a day to fuck me. Valentine's Day on the 14th. But I started the business a month later in March. I think I signed my first client on March 7th. And so we are basically just over the first year.
And almost full, as you said too, right?
Yeah, basically I think I have space for, like if I had to take on a client, I have room for one right now. Like I'm happy with the current load.
In both ways, because you're in both ways, right? You are representing a talent and... So
Correct.
You have two complete, well, not separate businesses, but two separate categories, right?
Yeah, so the way it happened is really cool. We haven't talked much about the new business, and that's probably what's the most interesting. So I'll go there. You know, when you look at PR now, like what makes an agency great or good? What makes good PR? Well, for one, you have to know, you know, how to, first of all, pick your clients. Second of all, create good pitches. Third of all, know how to create good media lists, like where your pitch is going. Third, fourth, the like real life relationships that you just have with editors. You know, it's not uncommon to like text a publicist or back and forth or whatever, or like have drinks or be friends, whatever. And then the last piece is sort of an intangible X factor of just like, you know, you go to enough like of these coffees and lunches and media events and you become part of the scene, and it's just sort of intangible. I looked at this and I was like, I want to stay in media. I don't want to necessarily still work in a magazine, but I want to have my own business. What is my asset? Like looking at it objectively, all things on the table, what do I have? What pile is the highest, right? And it's my experience as an editor and it's my relationships. So I just know a lot of people. Like, it's not because I'm special, it's because I went to NYU, I studied journalism. A lot of us who are now editors did. And even aside from that, you know, you're going on press trips, you're going to media events, you're having drinks, you're like gossiping, talking about what's happening in the industry. You do 10 years of that, like you're gonna have a pretty good network. Yeah. So I realized that was my biggest strength. And then I sort of put two and two together that's like kind of the driving force of PR. And, you know, I really don't think PR is something that you have to go to university for at all, really. People do communications, but that's like more sort of broad, you know? And so I was like, I'm just gonna give this a shot. And I'm gonna brand this as, I'm gonna call it Stat Media, and after my last name, Stattmann, and I'm going to brand this as the anti-agency, which is kind of like our hashtag now. And like, you know, I've had friends like give me shit for it, like, oh, tell people what you are, what you're not. And I'm like, no, I understand what you're saying, but in this context, I have to tell people what I'm not, because everyone is the exact same thing. If I tell people, we're a great PR agency, we have amazing relationships, like editorial experience, that's like, which agency is not saying that?
Right.
If I tell people we're the anti-agency, and I tell editors literally in these words, like, we cut out all the bullshit you hate about PR, and I'm just gonna give you, as a former editor, knowing what you need to write a great story, my client will be happy, you'll be happy with your content, and, you know, rinse and repeat. And an example of that is, because people have to ask for an example, is, and it's really not that complicated. And I'm not giving secrets away here. Like, I can give you the recipe, but the sauce won't taste the same. Yep. Is, you know, like if I want to get a, let's say, a pair of, okay, so the Magic 5, one of the brands that I represent, they make 3D custom fitted swimming goggles, right? So you do a facial scan in the app on your phone. It's amazing. They get sent to you and they fit you and only you. And there's no like suction, red rings around your eyes or anything. Like it's a game changer. if I want to get them into a magazine, right? First of all, look at the magazine, read it. Second, like, let's say there's, I see who's doing like their gear coverage, who the gear editor is. All right, looks like every month this person does the 9 best whatevers, right? Like in January they did the 9 best running shoes, and in February they did my 9 best like point and shoot cameras. I have swimming goggles. This is like an active lifestyle magazine. Maybe they'd be interested in doing one with swimming goggles. So I'll email that editor. Hey, editor, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's get beers again soon. Also, I notice every month you do the 9 best whatevers. You haven't done one on swimming goggles. I just started working with the Magic 5. They make the best goggle in the category. How about you do your next one, or the one after that, about swimming goggles, and you already have your first one, and I can send you a sample to check out. Now, as an editor...
There's the pitch, sorry. I'm trying to... that's not the pitch to editors. Go ahead.
I'm trying to like kill 2 birds with one stone. But, as an editor, what have I done for you? I've given you an idea, which you need. You have to give your editor, the editor above you, you always have to give them your ideas constantly, like, pitch for like your section if you're in print. I've given you an idea. I've taken one headache away, and I've given you a product to start with. So I've really just helped you. Like, as an editor, putting my goggles in your feature, you're not like doing me a solid. Like, you're doing your job. So like, I'm just helping you do your job. I'm not helping you do me a favor. It just happens to be something that is great for me and for my client, but that's what they're hiring me for. So like, you have to think like an editor. Like, what do they want? Because they don't care about your products. Like, I didn't like people sending me pitches as when I was an editor saying like, oh, this product's amazing. Like, check it out or cover it, whatever. It's like, all right, maybe it's amazing. Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'll eat lunch and forget forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if your email is like, hey, check out this amazing product. Like, I just made your life a little easier. Like, that's going to make more of an impression. Yeah. And so that's just one example. And there are like, countless iterations of that.
That's a great example.
You can use that.
Yeah.
Because most people just like you said, they said it about themselves and hey, check me out. And then the editor, or in your case, you would be also like, so what?
Yeah, exactly. And they're busy. And that's another part of like keeping realism in mind. These people are slammed. It doesn't matter if you had a perfect pitch or perfect whatever, sent it at 10 or 5 because you did A, B, C testing on when people open emails. It doesn't matter. You have to be realistic.
Now that you hear, so you did a great example for a product pitch. Now, if you would reach out to the news, you would do exactly the same idea, as in like you try to help them to cover story that they need to cover or whatever they're covering, right? I mean, like it would be kind of similar, helping basically the reporter out, right?
Yeah, I mean, news is going to be a little different because with like Men's Health, Men's Fitness, Self, Women's Health, Shape, those kinds of magazines, they're all service-based. Yeah. So generally speaking, like I don't think I actually mentioned this. I thought it's just obvious for me because I founded the company, but Stat Media PR works exclusively in health, fitness, and wellness because my entire editorial career has been in that vertical. Yeah. So
which makes sense.
What I decided was instead of creating a sort of general PR agency, which would allow me to take any and all clients, which most people do when they start a PR agency, I decided to be very niche and fully aware that this is a very thin slice of a much bigger pie. Yep. But that's a slice that I can own. And that's a slice that I can comfortably say that if you want health, fitness, wellness PR, we can do the best job in the world. And it's not an exaggeration because I would challenge someone to find for me another agency started by an editor with 10 years of experience who worked specifically in that field and worked at the top ranks of those titles and now has all of these relationships and still lives in New York City. Like, if you can find another agency that does that, tell me because I want to partner with them and rule the world. So I know, like, I can make that statement comfortably on a podcast and film anywhere because I truly believe that to be the case. There's stuff that goes with that. Like, I've had to turn away clients. I turned down a high fashion client that was more than capable of paying my full rate, probably more. I've turned down 2 supplement clients. Wow. One of them I referred to another friend who started an agency and she signed them. So like, everyone can win together. Yep. I could probably talk about that for 3 hours. Let me just put a pin in that, not right now. And you have to say goodbye to a lot of business, but when you do it, you feel good. Because if you're already in a position where you're firing all cylinders and you're getting inbounds and you get that 1 second where you get excited, you're like, oh, cool, new client. You read the rest and you're like, women's dresses. That's not, like, my contacts aren't going to be much help over here. Yeah. I can probably still do a decent job because, in the year that I've been doing this now, I would say, I was actually talking to my mom about this on the phone today, after boxing, that I would say probably like 60% of the results I've been getting recently have been, or just in total, have been through just good old-fashioned PR work. Mm-hmm. So like using databases, creating pitches, sending them out, as opposed to just like, hey dude, remember when we used to sit together and like Muscle and Fitness? Like I need you to help me out here. So like, that obviously helps.
Yeah.
But it's I'm starting to see that like I'm actually learning. Like I feel like I'm in college right now again. Like every day is a new like day at college. Like I'm having lessons. Negotiating contracts with like at a level that I really never expected to be doing it. So at this point, it's kind of like just seeing where it goes. The business is healthy, it's running well, it's growing, and that's really like on the business side, that's all I can ask for. And on the sort of like qualitative side, like who am I working with? How are those relationships? Like I said, I'm excited about every client I have. It's like the schedule, like I was at Everybody Fights, my client today, boxing. Then like tomorrow I'm having coffee with an editor of Women's Health. One of my new talent clients that I just signed, Bettina Gozo, is a Nike Global Master Trainer who won Women's Health's next Fitness Star competition.
Wow.
Then one of my male talent clients, Gideon Akande, won Men's Health's next top trainer competition.
Wow.
So like that feeds into relationships with Men's Health and relationships with Women's Health. Mm-hmm. But then we recently got Gideon on a Pop Sugar shoot, which then I was like, hey, do you guys want Bettina? And they're like, absolutely. And Bettina got that shoot. And then like sometimes a client will get a branded deal for social posts. And then I'll go back to that brand and say, hey, we also have X, Y, and Z that we represent. Mm-hmm. And then we'll sign 2 more deals right there. And then it's going to a magazine and being like, hey, have you guys heard of this cool CBD company like Beam that we just signed deals for like 3 of our clients with? And they're like, oh, this would be perfect for our whatever issue. Yeah. And like, I'm not making money off that, of like telling them that, but like, I'm in the conversation and I'm helping. And like, I just always want to feel like I have these like things swirling around me, like connecting the dots, like, oh, take this, plug it in here. Oh, take that, plug it in there. And now we're at a point like, yesterday I just signed my latest talent client, who will probably be the last client I signed for a while on the talent side. Mm-hmm. He's a very successful editorial model. He's got like over 200,000 followers, and he'd be in terms of that, he would be my biggest talent client so far. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about him is like, or anyone, is every client brings a unique challenge. And for him, the challenge is he's got amazing imagery. He's like a legit model, does like huge campaigns, and he has this whole fitness side to him that he hasn't exposed on social media. So that's a massive opportunity. Yeah. And he's got photos where he's like hanging out in a private jet, just like chilling on the jet. It's like, dude, insert thing here. Like, what can we put over here? Like, that post is worth so much money. And he's like, I know I want to do it, I just don't know how. So like, that's why we're going to work together.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's a challenge. It's like, all right, working with someone who's already successful, maybe I can teach you a few things. Maybe you can teach me a few things along the way.
That's awesome. So please tell the audience that, let's say you still have an opening on both sides, talent side and the other side as well, that what you would be looking exactly, who's your client? At this point, I would say comfortable not taking on new clients, mm-hmm. but I would take on probably the right client. Mm-hmm. No more than 1. So currently have 3 PR clients we're working with right now. Mm-hmm. So that's Everybody Fights, The Magic 5, and Hyperwear. Mm-hmm. I've done some brand strategy stuff as well recently for brands like Ghost and a couple others, but the main things are PR and talent. On the talent side, got about 6 now. Always open there, but again, it is just me, and the whole value of this agency is me. Yep. So and that's not like not trying to make myself sound cool, like it's literally the company is named after me, I'm the only employee, it's about me. You know what I mean? The people are working with Stat Media because they're working with Dean Stattmann. It's not like if I made this whole pitch about how like, editorial experience and this and that and editors and whatever, and then it's like, and then here's Tom, he just graduated college, he's going to be your account executive. You'd be like, wait, what just happened here? This is like the ultimate bait and switch. Yep, exactly. So I have to stay very involved, and that's why I can't extend myself too thin. Yeah. So you can charge more.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I found, so this might be interesting for other business owners too. Mm-hmm. Around month 6, mm-hmm. I had like 5 PR clients, mm-hmm. and I was making good money, but I was going crazy. Like I was losing my shit. Because I didn't have, it was past the point where I could even I was doing all the work, but there wasn't organization to it. Like it was all getting done, but I was waking up and literally rolling over to my laptop. Yeah. And then when I went to bed at night, I would close the laptop and go to bed right away. Uh-huh. There wasn't time when I was doing stuff that wasn't work.
Yeah.
And it became a problem. Like personally, I was actually like starting to like notice like my heart rate was getting a little higher. Like it wasn't a good situation. Fortunately, there was like a term with the client that sort of like ended there. Didn't push for a renewal there. I made sure like, I kind of kept working with who I really wanted to work with. And sort of just kept enforcing that idea of like quality, not quantity, keep it small, rather work with one client for a long time than like 6 clients in that same time. And so, like sometimes you can be enticed to like sign something new that makes more money, but in the back of your mind, you kind of know like, am I really going to be able to execute this to the same standard that I execute everything else up until now? And I think you know the answer always, and it just becomes a case of like, I'm gonna try and make it work. Let's see if I can do it. Or you say, I'm not going to do it. But back then, the way it happened was, new business, first-time entrepreneur, you get excited. You want to work with more people. And I think, there's nothing wrong with going through that and learning from it. It's just that you don't repeat your mistakes again. So at this point, I found that for talent clients, PR clients is the sweet spot. And then on the talent side, haven't really kind of figured out a number yet, but it's starting to feel like 5 or 6 is where it's at. So yeah, as far as the ideal client, you are either in health, fitness, wellness already for PR, or you are outside of that world, but you're specifically looking to get coverage in that world. That's probably like, it's pretty simple. Like basically we are health, fitness, wellness, boutique PR. So I guess I would say that. I would say, this is where I think a lot of companies or potential clients will fall off, which is like, there's a big qualitative aspect here. Like I have 1 or 2 talent clients that I've signed, like on paper, I wouldn't sign them based on like whether it's like following or like what they do or whatever. But these individuals are so incredible that I want them involved in what I'm doing. Even if that means signing them as a talent client, they're still there. Like they're still doing like sponsored stuff and they are people of importance. But like, I'm like, I recognize something in you and we really get along and we both want positivity and success over the long run. And we don't care about these small financial gains here and there just to like grab a quick buck. I want you involved in what I'm doing. And I have 2 clients specifically that I did that with. And, obviously those accounts are going to be less. Again, I'm talking about talent specifically. Yes. Like, I'm not going to be like, sign a retainer with me, monthly retainer, and like, maybe nothing will happen. Like, no, I never do that. On talent, it's more like, because by working, when you join Stat Media, whether it's a PR client or a talent client, you are entering this family. And I know it sounds like a little bit like a corporate cliche to say like family, but the truth is like, there isn't a corporate culture here. Like it's me, and it's called the anti-agency because I called it the anti-agency. And like, there's a lot about corporate that I learned that made me, successful at what I do. But there's also a lot about corporate that I learned that, made a lot of people and me unsuccessful in ways. And I think that it's when you're dealing with, it's like why people wear, dress codes at jobs and like suits. It's not because like wearing a suit makes you a better businessman or that wearing like a USPS outfit, like, that one doesn't even make sense, like the shorts, like I don't even get. But the point is, the reason we have stuff like that is there's always going to be people who take advantage and just don't think things through, right? There's always going to be the guy who wears like fishing pants and like Crocs to work because you told him he can wear whatever he wants. So that principle applies to a lot of things in life where like certain rules and things are there because there's always going to be someone who's going to try and take advantage of this situation, right? Yeah, so the 2 people that I signed really just as I wanted them to be involved and I knew great things were going to come. And we still do deals, but it's like, that's just like...
Well, you invest in the people, in the person.
I'm investing in the people. Yeah, that's... Exactly. Yeah, thank you for articulating something very simple that I simply could not find my way to.
We knew what you meant.
It's investing in people, exactly. And so what I was saying about that sort of, that like more qualitative or intangible aspect when it comes to new clients is like, that mutual feeling has to be there, like if you don't appreciate the value of being plugged into an agency where you have all of these relationships built in plus talent as well, like if you're a PR client, if that sounds to you like, yeah, that's nice, but let's talk about like deliverables, whatever, like I don't even want to finish that conversation because I know I'm going to kill it for you. Like we've got Today Show, Cheddar, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Men's Health, Women's Health, Shape, like I can just go on, like we've got them all. In 1 year. And so, like I don't need to have a conversation with someone like like you can't get arrogant. Like I'm always going to have to earn everyone's respect. Like if I've never met that person before, right? I can never expect someone like knows who I am and knows how great I am at my job and therefore they should like act a certain way. Like I disagree with that completely because I don't like it when people are that way with me.
Exactly.
Like let me like earn my respect. Like yeah, you could be an actor, you could be The Rock or whoever, but like if our interaction goes a certain way, then none of that means anything to me.
Sure.
Exactly.
And so I really like I like to identify that in someone who becomes a client where it's like, okay, we're in this together. You are not the kind of brand that's trying to take down other brands. You want to be successful for yourself. You're confident in what you have. You know that you can really fly with some PR and some media. So that's what we're going to do together. And yeah, I told the talent client on the phone yesterday the same thing. I was like, actually, sorry, prospective maybe one day client. I was like, you're never going to be in a situation with me where we are disputing, where we're having like an argument about a contract. Because it won't even get to that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like if it starts to feel like there's bad blood or you're like, oh no, like I don't want to give you a cut of my like deals that you're getting anymore. Like, all right, well that's simple. Like, you know, the way it works with talent is like I only win if we only win together, you know what I mean? And if that's not working for you anymore, then all right. You know, like if we try to have a conversation, it doesn't work out, yeah, bye. But you know, again, like that's not a situation that I anticipate because the way that we're starting is in such a wholesome place.
Yeah, it's a different level.
Exactly. I think the issue arises when you're like, oh my God, I have to sign everyone who wants to work with me because I'm so scared about my first business failing. And actually, you know what? I think you wanted to talk about this because you mentioned it earlier. This feeds right into how people sometimes will try to get exposure for the sake of exposure without thinking about why that kind of exposure, and maybe could it actually be more harmful than helpful?
Yeah,
I think lots of fitness entrepreneurs, run into this where you get an opportunity, or any entrepreneurs, but I know like your audience obviously is, hey audience, like you're in a very saturated market, and you want to stand out, and so if you get an opportunity to be featured, like whether it's in like a magazine or on TV or something, it's very tempting to take that, but not thinking of like, how am I going to be portrayed?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, what's the point of this? What does the producer have in mind? Because that might not be the best thing to do. And, you know, like to give you an example.
We had it before, by the way. So
Yeah.
I went through with Yahoo Beauty, Men's Journal. We had a few, because we're new.
Yeah.
The EMS, so I had to ask a few times, what do you have in mind? And what do you exactly that you want? Because, just like, but go ahead, because that's what you're going to say anyways. But
Yeah, so like, for example, there is a brand that I've worked with in the past where they did apparel. It wasn't workout apparel, but it was like, to and from leisure wear. And I got an opportunity with, this is the Pop Sugar thing I mentioned. So I had one of my clients, Gideon, was doing a workout shoot, and basically it was coming up, and they told us that he could wear whatever he wanted in the shoot, and they could give clothing credit at the end. So the brand that I was working with found out, well, I mentioned in passing because it was completely unrelated for them. And all of a sudden, they were putting pressure on me to put their T-shirt on Gideon for that shoot. And I could see why they would say that, but they're not an athletic company, not an athleisure or whatever, they're a performance company, right? Like the stuff is not, they are amazing pieces, the T-shirts, hoodies, joggers, everything, but they're not for working out in. And so if I put this T-shirt on him there, right? I mean, obviously, yes, agree to wear it, but like he would, if he wore it, and then there's a fashion credit at the end, tells you who made the T-shirt, and he's working out, sweating, whatever, and then you're like, that shirt looked pretty cool, I'm gonna go buy it, right? Now keep in mind, we're talking about an audience of over 1.3 million in this case, so that could translate to a lot of sales, right?
Yeah.
So it's tempting,
Yeah.
but what are they gonna do? They're gonna buy that shirt, they're gonna work out in it, it holds on to literally every drop of sweat that comes out. Like I wrung it out with one hand just to prove I was like, no, look. Everyone who wears it and works out in it is going to say, this is the worst workout shirt I have ever worn.
Yep.
And your reviews are your Amazon star rating is going to go from 5 to 1. Your sales are going to go down. And honestly, like with an audience that size, if they get vocal enough, like it could ruin you.
The brand,
It could ruin you as a new business that hasn't even been around that long. So I had to explain that like just because you have an opportunity to get in front of 1.3 million people, it could kill you. It's a bad idea. And, believe it or not, that person who I was talking to this day still doesn't understand my logic about that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you're just going to run into people who don't
Yeah, of course.
get your point of view. And, at that point you have to just say, okay, well, agree to disagree. This is how I do it. This is a very fundamental thing, and this isn't going to work out. So you have conversations like that, and those sort of guide you to who you're going to work with, continuing working with, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it because that also covers up who you work with, who you doesn't work with, where you go, who you pitch, and so many things. So we have to wrap up because we literally have 7 minutes left actually. So we have to make sure that the clock is there.
Yeah.
We're just looking over. But so where could people find you right now?
Right here in the West Village. No, they can find me at on Instagram at Dean Stattmann, DEAN, STATTMANN. I'm at, Instagram's the best, but on Instagram you can find Stat Media PR, STAT Media PR. We're also online, statmediapr.com, and you can find more about the agency over there. And, again, I am very accessible. So I would, if anyone has any questions about stuff that we discussed, I would definitely, answer them. I'd love to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
And of course, if anyone's interested in talking about PR, have that conversation too.
Awesome, glad, because we'll definitely reach out. And you also mentioned that you have a podcast. What's your podcast info? Where can they find that?
Okay, the podcast is called Gamma Project, GAMMA Project. And I'm spelling everything. I feel so weird. Why am I spelling everything? All right. Gamma Project, you can find that, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, which is actually being turned into YouTube Music now, which is interesting. So yeah, that's all over the place. And basically Gamma Project, first season is out, finished, 9 episodes. Most recent is actually George Foreman III, founder of Everybody Fights, which happened before I did PR and signed him as a client. Everybody Fights.
Everybody Fights.
That's the gym.
Yes.
And basically, we are talking to high-performing individuals from the top of their fields from around the world, finding the strategies, tactics that allow them to perform at such a high level, and then distilling that into sort of actionable tactics that you can install into your own life and try and replicate or recreate some of the success or the strategies that those people employ.
Awesome. So glad to hear that. I'm so glad that you came out and took the time and
of course.
out of your busy day, because I bet you're busy with all the clients and the talents that you have. So I really appreciate it. And then guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you can check it out on YouTube. Everything that he mentioned, by the way, same thing. Spotify, iHeartRadio, everything, and IGTV as well. So make sure that you watch this, check out his podcast, check out everything on Instagram, and get in touch with you. Probably Instagram is the best, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Dean at statmediapr.com.
There we go. And thank you very much. Share this episode, rate it. We see you next time.